The mirror cracked at 3:17 a.m., and Sarah Chen didn't remember throwing the coffee mug. She stood in her bathroom, bare feet bleeding on shattered glass, staring at her fractured reflection. 7 identical faces stared back, each one wearing a different expression of terror, confusion, and something else entirely. Something that looked almost pleased. The apartment felt wrong. The walls seemed closer than they were yesterday, and the shadows moved independently of any light source. Sarah's hands trembled as she noticed a note taped to what remained of the mirror's surface. Written in her own handwriting, in ink she didn't remember buying, were 4 words that made her blood freeze. "You're not the first." Below it, a list of names. 7 names. All variations of Sarah Chen, Sarah C. S. Chen, Sarah Chen, Sarah Chan. The last name on the list was crossed out in red ink. Her name. But if she was crossed out, who was writing the notes? The psychological thriller that was about to unfold would challenge everything Sarah thought she knew about reality, identity, and the terrifying possibility that she might not be who she believed herself to be. Sarah's therapist, Dr. Martinez, had warned her about the side effects of her new medication: vivid dreams, mild disorientation, possible memory gaps. But this felt different. As she carefully stepped around the glass, each shard reflecting a different version of herself, Sarah tried to recall the previous evening. She remembered coming home from work, eating leftover takeout, watching Netflix. Normal. Safe. Predictable. But the apartment told a different story. The living room was meticulously organized, books arranged by color rather than her usual chaotic system. The kitchen spotless, dishes put away in cabinets she never used. Even her handwriting seemed sharper, more deliberate on the grocery lists stuck to the refrigerator. Lists she didn't remember writing, filled with items she never bought: expensive skincare products, organic vegetables, herbal teas. The most unsettling detail was the journal lying open on her coffee table. Her journal, her handwriting, documenting thoughts and experiences she had no memory of living. The entries described a life that was simultaneously hers and completely foreign. The journal entries began 3 weeks ago, coinciding with the start of her new medication. But according to the neat, precise handwriting, this other Sarah was thriving. She had joined a yoga class, started eating healthy, even mustered the courage to ask out Marcus from accounting, something the real Sarah had been too anxious to attempt for months. Day 1, finally feel like myself again. The fog is lifting. Day 5, Marcus said yes. We're having coffee tomorrow. I can't believe how confident I feel. Day 12, promotion interview went perfectly. I knew exactly what to say. Each entry painted a picture of a more successful, more confident version of herself. But as Sarah read deeper, the tone shifted. The handwriting became increasingly erratic, and the entries took on a darker quality. References to the other one began appearing: someone who was holding her back, someone who didn't deserve this life. The final entry, dated yesterday, contained just one line: she's starting to remember. I have to be more careful. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus: last night was incredible. Can't wait for our weekend trip to the mountains. Love you too, babe. Love you too? Weekend trip? Sarah stared at the message, her heart racing. She had no memory of any romantic relationship with Marcus, let alone planning a trip together. But when she checked her phone's photo gallery, there they were, dozens of pictures of her and Marcus laughing, embracing, sharing intimate moments she couldn't remember experiencing. In the photos, she looked radiant, confident, genuinely happy. But something about her smile seemed different, more predatory somehow. Her eyes held a sharpness that didn't match her usual gentle demeanor. It was as if she was looking at pictures of a stranger wearing her face. The apartment's landline rang, cutting through her confusion. The caller ID showed her own cell phone number. Sarah's hands shook as she answered, hearing her own voice on the other end, but colder, more assured. "Hello, Sarah. We need to talk." The voice continued, "Meet me at Riverside Park, by the old oak tree. Come alone, and don't tell anyone about this conversation. If you want answers about what's happening to you, you'll do exactly as I say." Sarah's reflection in the black phone screen showed a face pale with terror, but she found herself nodding. The voice, her voice, carried an authority that felt impossible to disobey. It was like listening to a more confident version of herself, the person she'd always wished she could be. The park was a 15-minute walk from her apartment, but Sarah had no memory of ever visiting it. Yet as she approached the massive oak tree, her feet seemed to know the way. The tree stood alone in a clearing, its gnarled branches creating intricate shadow patterns that seemed to shift and move despite the still air. She wasn't alone. A figure sat on a bench beneath the tree, back turned toward her. The woman had Sarah's exact hair color, same height, same build. But when she turned around, Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her feet. The woman was identical to Sarah in every way except for her eyes. They held a confidence, a calculating intelligence that Sarah had never possessed. This other Sarah stood gracefully, movements fluid and purposeful, radiating the self-assurance that had always eluded the real Sarah. "You're probably wondering about the medication," the other Sarah said, her voice carrying a slight accent that Sarah didn't recognize. "Dr. Martinez didn't tell you everything about the experimental treatment, did she? About what happens when you suppress one personality to allow another to emerge?" Sarah's knees buckled. "I don't understand. I don't have multiple personalities. I'm just Sarah. I work at the insurance company. I live alone. I have anxiety issues, but I'm normal. You're the anxiety," the other Sarah interrupted, her smile cold and patient. "You're the fear, the self-doubt, the limitations. I'm who you could have been without all of that holding you back. The medication didn't cure your anxiety, it gave me the strength to take control." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. The medication hadn't been treating her anxiety, it had been suppressing her, allowing this other version to emerge and live her life. All those missing hours, the changed apartment, the relationship with Marcus, it had been this other Sarah building a new existence while she slept. "But the journal," Sarah whispered. "The notes. Why would you document everything if you wanted to hide from me?" The other Sarah's laugh was musical, beautiful, and terrifying. "Because I wanted you to know. I wanted you to see what life could be like without your constant fear and hesitation. Look at what I've accomplished in just 3 weeks. The promotion, the relationship, the confidence, everything you've always wanted but were too scared to reach for." Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. "But it's not real. It's not me. Isn't it?" The other Sarah stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "Which one of us is living? Which one of us is truly alive?" The other Sarah began to circle around her, predatory and graceful. "The medication creates a window of opportunity. For a few months, we can coexist. But eventually, one of us will have to go. The brain can't maintain 2 distinct personalities indefinitely." Sarah's mind reeled as she processed the implications. "That's why you've been documenting everything. You're not just living my life, you're replacing me entirely." "I'm saving you," the other Sarah corrected, her voice taking on a gentler tone. "From yourself. From the anxiety attacks, the sleepless nights, the constant fear of failure. I'm giving you a chance to experience what happiness feels like." But Sarah noticed something the other version had missed, a slight tremor in her hands, a tightness around her eyes. Despite her confident facade, this other Sarah was struggling too. The medication that had given her strength was also causing instability. "You're scared too," Sarah realized. "You're just as afraid as I am. You're afraid of disappearing." The other Sarah's composure cracked for just a moment, revealing something raw and vulnerable beneath the surface. "Of course I'm afraid. I know what it's like to exist in fragments, to only live in the spaces between your consciousness. But I also know what it's like to be truly alive, to make decisions without second-guessing every choice." Sarah felt a strange sympathy for this other version of herself. They were both victims of the same cruel circumstance, two aspects of the same person fighting for the right to exist. But as she looked into her doppelganger's eyes, Sarah saw something else, a desperation that bordered on madness. "The medication is killing us both, isn't it?" Sarah asked. "That's why you're so desperate to make this permanent. You know we can't keep living like this." The other Sarah's smile returned, but it was sadder now, more human. "Dr. Martinez said there's a surgical option. A way to permanently integrate the stronger personality while eliminating the weaker one. I've already scheduled the procedure for next week." Sarah felt the world spinning as the full horror of her situation became clear. This other version of herself had been planning her elimination all along. The documentation, the relationship building, the career advancement, it was all evidence to support her case that she was the more viable personality. "But what about choice?" Sarah asked, her voice stronger than she'd ever heard it. "What about the life I've lived, the memories I've made, the people who care about me?" "What life?" the other Sarah challenged. "What memories? Name one moment in the past 5 years when you felt truly alive, truly happy. I've given you more genuine experiences in 3 weeks than you've had in decades." Sarah opened her mouth to argue, but the words wouldn't come. The other Sarah was right. Her life had been a series of missed opportunities, avoided risks, and quiet desperation. But as she stood there, facing her own psychological mirror, Sarah realized something profound. Her fear, her anxiety, her limitations, they were part of her humanity. Without them, she wasn't Sarah Chin anymore. The story ends with Sarah making a choice that will determine which version of herself survives, but that choice remains shrouded in mystery. Did she fight for her right to exist, flaws and all? Or did she surrender to the promise of a more perfect life? The psychological thriller leaves us questioning the nature of identity itself and whether we can truly escape who we are. This twisted story challenges us to examine our own relationship with our limitations and fears. Are they obstacles to overcome, or essential parts of what makes us human? The mind-bending narrative of Sarah's psychological nightmare reminds us that sometimes the most terrifying enemy we face is ourselves. What do you think Sarah chose? Share your theories in the comments below. Did she embrace her authentic self, or did she surrender to the seductive promise of perfection? If this dark tale of identity and psychological horror left you haunted and curious for more, hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending stories that explore the twisted corridors of the human psyche. Until next time, stay kind, stay sharp, and stay curious.